All right, yeah, we've got part two of this. Was Mark's Patreon request. Uh, I do love these things because it's like Zappa is so layered that I think it's impossible um to see it all without someone helping you. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so many things that they're talking like he's talking about with recording and yeah, which I just don't even think of. Really, it's just not part of my world. I look at Frank Zappa as the, do you know what I mean, the composing side of things. But then he's got another layer where he's like a recording wizard back in the day. Do you know what I mean? When there wasn't the technology. Just like, yeah. But anyway, let's carry on. Let's go.
Absolute pioneer of this. These two approaches for me are absolutely groundbreaking. So let's have a look at Shut Up and Play Your Guitar and just discuss the innovations on that album.
Oh
So
yeah, I'm looking forward
to
to this.
start off, I don't think anybody in the history of music has ever released a triple album of guitar solos, which is what that album is. And for me, when I
That explains why I've done so many songs off that album and still get requested them.
discovered this album, it was just on continual rotation. Zappa is doing all sorts of things with that album, and the most groundbreaking thing for me is the way his solo relates to the rhythm section. By the time he got to Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, he had hired one of the greatest drummers in the history of drumming, which was Vinnie Colaiuta. Vinnie Colaiuta, before he joined Zappa, had become very interested in polyrhythms and tuplets. So for those of you who don't know what a polyrhythm or tuplet is, I will now explain it, and I will try and demonstrate it with my body and my voice. That's what I'm going to try and do now. So in music we have a pulse. These are called crotchets or quarter notes. Music is breaks down into a pulse like this. One. Now in normal music we break this down into simple time, which would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and that's how most people play. They break it down into eighth notes or 16th notes or maybe 32nd notes. But we can also break those down into threes. This is called compound time. So let's go back to that sort of daddy beat, the crotchet. Here we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, or sextuplets. Daddly diddly daddly diddly daddly diddly daddly diddly. But this time we could also break, if we wanted it, into 5 like this. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Right? Now if we do this, this starts to almost like break open the rhythm in the same way that alter scales and cadences open up the harmony. So when you're improvising, what is always happening in music, this is the fundamental aspect of music, is the way that you create consonance and dissonance. So usually when you're improvising, the consonance is by playing the notes that work over the chord or the mode, and the dissonance is moving away from that harmony and create notes that are really out of tune. Anyone who tries to improvise, one of the big mistakes they do is they believe that they have to play in tune to improvise. You don't. You have to create the interest, push the harmony away from the home, the root that is that the harmony is rooted in, and that makes you sort of go whoa, and it creates a tension. Now there's no such things as out of tune notes and in tune notes. What we have is some notes are more in tune and some notes are less in tune, and you can create more tension by moving away. Now when you move away, this is time based, and so the timing is so important, which we would call phrasing. The phrasing is so important for creating that tension. So there's certain points where you could play an out of tune note and it will not be perceived as out of tune, and there's certain points where it will really be perceived out of tune. It's not down to the harmonic structure, it's down to the rhythmic structure, it's down to the time-based placement of that note. All right? Now if you're playing in time, so you go, Now, I just played a 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. And that there, where you hear that, that also creates a rhythmical dissonance. And so if you're playing modally now, where there is no actual movement, and modal playing was pioneered by originally in jazz by George Russell and some of those theories, and Miles Davis brought it into albums like Milestones and Kind of Blue. And then when we get to sort of the free jazz period of the 1960s, people like John Coltrane are using modality. Now, Coltrane would often use both of these techniques to create tension. He would play inside the mode, but he would stress it by playing notes that were outside the mode, and he would also stress it rhythmically. In terms of rhythmical phrasing, in improvisation, I believe up until Frank Zappa, what you had was time-based improvisation, which would be based upon, you know, 8th note, 16th note, simple time and compound time, or you would have rubato playing, which is you're just not playing, you're just floating over the top. Zappa's very mathematical in using these different tuplets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that sound is very Zappa. You know, that sort of sound is integral, and it creates a sort of rhythmical tension. Vinnie Colaiuta, before he joins the Zappa band, is very interested in these tuplets. And once he joins the band, Zappa trains him, and he said this in interviews himself, that Zappa trained him to improvise using tuplets. So he was looking at it in a sort of structural sense, you know, that you're reading rhythms and you're playing a composition. And Zappa had already pioneered this use, but with Vinnie, Vinnie starts to react polyrhythmically to what Zappa's doing. And so we start to see a new type of improvisation in terms of how the rhythm section is relating to the guitar player, and the way that we have this time ticking here, but over the top of this we have these different tuplets that are weaving their way around. And for me, this was absolutely groundbreaking as a drummer, and also as a guitar player. I play guitar as well. And I think with Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, he opens up a new way of improvisation, which throughout the 80s, 90s starts to become a new way of improvising. And now when you go on the internet and watch a lot of sort of virtuoso musicians soloing, you will hear that much more metronomic approach. And so here we can see that Zappa not only is a pioneering guitarist in the 1960s, but he's a pioneering guitarist all the way up until the 1980s. This makes him comparable for me to a guitarist like Jeff Beck. In other words, he kept going. Now, in the mid-80s, he brought out another album called Guitar, which is another wonderful album, a double album full of guitar solos. So with these two albums, we have, you know, 5 discs worth of guitar solos. But also there's been all sorts of other albums come out which feature Frank's guitar playing centre stage. It's an album full of guitar solos. Now, many guitarists could not pull this off, but Zappa did. And I think it's down to his incredible compositional ability as a guitar soloist, but also the pioneering use of effects, of guitar tones, and also the innovations that he developed in terms of how the rhythm section relates to the solo. Often when he soloed, he would utilise a reggae rhythm, and it was a very specific reggae rhythm where the drop was on beat 3. That type of reggae rhythm. So that's a rhythm where we have no beat 1, and also we have a lot of space. And often when you listen to Zappa's backgrounds that he's soloing over, they have been designed to promote improvisation, you know. So with a lot of rock guitarists, you often find that the guitar solo is part of a song, and they are soloing over the structure of that song. Sometimes they might write a middle part for them to solo over it. But on the whole, that
Right, I need a break because he's hurting my brain. But he did do a good job of kind of performing and kind of putting it, because I can hear what he's like. Do you know what I mean? Say it like I can't read music. I just can't. Like I just yeah, and I don't know, but when he does it, I can hear what he's saying, and I can hear the Zappa in kind of what he's doing. Do you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, then I kind of understand it mathematically, but it's much easier when it's kind of performed to a certain point. He actually done a very good job because that was hard even just to do with his like mouth and clapping. Do you know what I mean? That was a tricky thing he just done. But yeah, yeah, this half has been like a whole music lesson, not just a Frank Zappa lesson, a music lesson. Yeah, 2 secs. Yeah, let's carry on.
that middle part will relate to the song in some way. Zappa is exploring improvisational specific backgrounds that will promote a depth of improvisation that will drive his guitar playing to create new compositional ideas. So when we stand back and look at Frank Zappa, we can see that he's an incredible guitarist. His virtuosity is his own virtuosity. When you improvise, you are playing your own set of rules, right? He was not a virtuoso in the same sense as a Steve Vai. And this is why he hired Steve Vai to play the incredibly difficult parts on guitar that he could not play. Now, this, for me, does not mean he's an inferior guitarist to Steve Vai. What it means is that it's a different type of virtuosity. Now, when we look at a guitarist like Jimi Hendrix, it's taken for granted that he is exploring a different type of virtuosity to someone like Steve Vai. That we understand that his use of feedback and distortion and noise and all these types of things that Hendrix did, and also his incredible feeling for the blues, is where the virtuosity is. Now, I have met many guitarists that when they listen to Hendrix cannot really understand his greatness because they've grown up listening to all those 80s rock guitarists like Yngwie Malmsteen and Paul Gilbert, and they're comparing him to that. That way of playing guitar, I think, has become a dead end. I was on YouTube, some guy had put up a video of sort of new up and coming guitarists, all these Instagram guitarists, and they were all coming out doing all this sort of real, jumping through technical hoops, virtuosity, brilliance, and as these guitarists were cut together and they were moving, if I'd have closed my eyes, I could not have told where one guitarist stopped and another guitarist started. They had exactly the same tone. They had exactly the same technique. They played exactly the same licks. The things that we are supposed to go ooh at, they were all doing. It was basically a lot of trained monkeys who were sat there watching YouTube trying to pull off what other people have done. This is guitar playing going up its own bottom as far as I'm concerned, and I do not class this as virtuoso guitar playing. For me, fundamental, the virtuosity comes from the vision. It's the ability to develop techniques that create new forms of expression. When somebody develops a new way of playing, then the sheep will follow. So, for example, Frank Zappa was an absolute virtuoso in his control of feedback. Carlos Santana is another virtuoso that could control feedback in incredible ways, as is Gary Moore. Right? Zappa's control of feedback is absolutely virtuoso. If you put most guitarists on a stage in a big concert hall like Zappa would be in with that huge amp and turned up Zappa's guitar the way it was set up, they would not be able to control that sound. Zappa was able to control his sound absolutely incredibly and ride on the back of that feedback. That is a virtuosity. That is a technical ability that other people would not be able to do. The problem we've got with guitar playing is the guitar playing has become a set of rules. And somebody has to come out and they have to do some nice bending, play some melodic stuff, then they're going to play some very fast alternate picking, 3-note per string, and then some very fast legato, 3-note per string, then they may sweep and then they all tap. And these things, and this really goes back to Eddie Van Halen, but the difference with Eddie Van Halen is those techniques that he pioneered to express himself. And that is why Eddie Van Halen sounds unlike any other guitarist. All those guitarists who tried to copy him do not sound like him. And this is the same is true of Frank Zappa, who was a true original, a great guitar player. And really, when we start to say the great guitarists, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Ritchie Blackmore, Eddie Van Halen, right? When we run through that sort of legendary pantheon of of legends, I've used the word legend twice there, I think Frank Zappa needs to be put on that list, and we need to realise that he is up there and in some cases beyond these guitarists. And I think we need to reevaluate Frank Zappa as a guitar player. And if you're a guitar player that is struggling trying to understand what he's doing and it just sounds like it's messy, it might be the time to actually start exploring these use of tuplets and sound and the different picking techniques that he uses, and judge him in his own merits, in his own world, to the specific techniques that he pioneered on guitar. Anyway, that's the end of this video. If you like this video, put a like on it. If you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe. You could support me over on Patreon if you want. The link is down below. And if not, I've got a PayPal tip jar. The link's there as well. And some lovely people give me little donations. I'm really, and some of them aren't so little as well. And it's really great. And I'm hoping this year to really be able to kick this YouTube channel, up. I'm getting a new computer soon, which will mean I'll be able to do better editing, and I'm trying to get the quality, especially on my interviews, the quality of those a bit higher. So hopefully that's all going to happen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
It's kind of crazy because it feels like he's in a similar place to me in terms of it. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what he said there. And when he talks about modern guitar playing, but I think that there's a cultural and societal what's the word? Sculpture, or yeah, that you can't and it doesn't just go with guitar, but it applies to everything at the moment. Because no one supports original artists. That's not what you do. People like whatever goes to number one, I'll just make a song that sounds like that. That's kind of what you're getting, but you get it across the board with like most things. Like nowadays, it really is rare that you find a true artist, especially as well, someone who actually loves doing what they do and isn't just doing it to better their circumstances. You know what I mean? It's one thing with Elvis, that what you can't deny with Elvis, he truly loved music, and he done it up until he dropped, basically. And these guitar players that you see that he's talking about, I mean, I'm not on Instagram and I don't really go on them sorts of social media things, like TikTok and that. YouTube, I like. I've got a Twitter, but I don't really go on that. So I don't really know, but I kind of know what he's talking about. people that know the same things, and I can hear the guitar playing he's talking about. And there is there is a skill to that, without a doubt. But to me, it's a bit like your X Factor singers. No one on these like X Factor shows or anything, they all have the same sounding voice. They all do the same thing. Like it's this kind of universal thing that people are afraid to kind of step out of that. But like I say, that's again, I think it comes from the culture and the society that we live in. Now, whether you say social media has something to do with that, but I think probably now more than ever, we live in a very kind of follow the status quo or else time in everything, whether it's your views politically or, yeah, expressing yourself. And typically, people that do express themselves will get criticized. Like the people that have that kind of creative thing, they're not as well known as these, and that's why people do it. They do it because people, like he said, there's endless guitar players. They all sound the same, but it's because they know that that's what people's going to click on. So they do it and they mimic it, and it works. Whereas, yeah, what he's talking about is actually a kind of more the creative side. And yeah, there is something that is something that's missing. What did we do the other day? We did a song the other day, and there was a guitar solo in it. And nowadays, that's such a rare treat from music because it's like guitar's just not cool. And it's kind of like when we watched the Elvis documentary, it's funny that when like someone that went to school with him said Elvis used to come to school with his guitar. And at that point, guitars weren't cool. So you think it is a loop, and hopefully guitar will come back with a vengeance. But I don't think we're going to get the likes of a Frank Zappa. I think Frank Zappa's too many avenues a genius. Whether it's being on the kind of cutting edge of the recording, cutting edge of instruments, like you hear Zappa's band members saying that like he they like he had all these instruments. He would have every instrument you can think of, and they loved it. Like they loved being around it. Was it Tommy Mars said it? It's just getting your hands on this equipment, and it's Zappa had it all. He was at the cutting edge of everything in every avenue, from recording to guitar playing, even down to lyric writing and that type of thing. Like in every avenue, he's. So I don't know whether you're going to get someone like Frank Zappa is very much a one-off, um, and he should be appreciated as that. It's like I brought him up in the Elvis. I just did. I don't know if it was today the Elvis thing, but yeah, I think it was actually. I did an Elvis reaction today, and you hear him. It was like a blues one. The first one we did was like a blues track, and he has that blues voice, sounds blues. But then all of a sudden he opens it up and he does this like it's something that blues musicians don't do, and that's his kind of gospel and choir background coming through. Um, and Zappa, I think, is like that. And them sorts of people, I think you have to kind of judge on their own. It's not fair. It's not fair to say. It's not fair to other rock guitar players to compare them to Zappa, because, like he said, Zappa's like much more. He is the like He's the edge of the universe, basically. In the universe of guitar, like the yeah, I'd say the person who got the furthest was him, and everyone else is kind of in his ballpark. Really, that's why it's not fair to call Freddie Mercury the best rock singer, because Freddie Mercury's voice isn't a typical rock voice. It's not fair to rock singers to compare them to Freddie Mercury, because Freddie Mercury has that opera thing. He has a range that rock singers don't have, and yeah, Zappa to me is the same, and same with Elvis. Like it's not fair to compare Elvis to strict blues musicians because Elvis has other influences that come through and make him sound like he sounds. And same with Zappa. Zappa is a boundary pushing, but yet musical. Like his musical knowledge is unreal. Do you know what I mean? He has a such, and you can tell that from when he writes songs that are of genres, like he said, like reggae. It sounds like reggae. It doesn't sound like Frank Zappa doing reggae. It sounds like reggae, and it's because he has such a great whirlpool of kind of knowledge of everything. And that's what I mean. Like it's you may get someone who kind of fills that space that Zappa once filled, but you're not going to get another Zappa. It's literally like Mike Tyson. You watch Mike Tyson when he's younger. He's 15 years old. He's jacked. He's knocking out, do you know what I mean, 30-year-olds like it's like their children. He's half their size. He's jacked and he's just a phenom. You can't compare, like, Mike Tyson was a freak of nature when he was younger. You can't compare that to other boxers. Like, you might have boxers that come out and do better than Tyson, win all their fights, but you're never going to get another Mike Tyson like that because it's a unique combination of things that just all lined up. And I think Zappa is the same. He's a unique combination of influences, knowledge, intelligence. Um, yeah, that it makes him just unique. But anyway, yeah, that was a good thing to watch. To be fair, I did enjoy that as well. I actually do. I enjoy. I love reacting because Frank Zappa is great to react to because it's just so reactive. Do you know what I mean? There's so much that you can react to in his songs, or in his music. But I actually enjoy these more. The more I watch these things, documentaries, interviews with him, like like things like this, where someone's who has obviously a much deeper knowledge of Zappa than I do. My Zappa journey is documented on YouTube. That's it. Every video you see, that's my Zappa journey. Whereas he knows like everything about Zappa. So when he's kind of seeing it, I'm kind of seeing it through the eyes of someone who's never heard anything like this. He's coming from the aspect of someone who studied it. And yeah, so it's fascinating to me to watch. He said a lot of things in here that didn't know. Or as well, sometimes it's not that you don't know, you kind of feel it in his music, but then you just like I don't have the musical vocabulary to word it. I don't know what triplets are and I don't know, but I can feel it when it's happening. Do you know what I mean? Like I can hear it. I can hear yeah, but with someone like him, he's almost like a music teacher. In fact, he should do that. He should do music lessons on Skype or whatever. But yeah, anyway, that's the reaction. Sweet.